fucking piece of shit.
Oh, did you make it with a fine-tooth scalpel? Like, Jesus, it's a number sign and a 1, Nick.
Do you know how long that shit takes?
Jim, I was right there with
Trademark
you
it.
until fine-tooth scalpel.
I don't fucking know what I'm talking about. All right,
Oh my God.
you're so sensitive.
Yeah, I'm not even.
But
like,
your drawing skills,
Where are your ethics?
where are they?
From fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Pod Therapy. Real therapists, real questions, and real
You were almost there.
therapists. I'm flustered.
We're so upset.
And that guy is Dr. Jim Job, and I'm Nick Sandra. It's time for some Pod Therapy.
You are so sensitive to
That
this.
took a long time.
Nick, that doesn't mean that it's good. That just because you invested a lot of time in something.
Wait, is it
does
on
not
the?
mean
Is it
it's
on the
good.
store? Is it on the store? Is there somewhere I can see it?
Just text it to him.
No, I'll just
Text him it.
I got it right here. I'll just pull it up.
All right. So
Just
what
pull
we're
it up.
describing while he's doing this. So we had our Pod Therapy Fantasy Football League, and the champion, glorious reigning empress of the league is Andrea Anderson. So Nick decided to make her a shirt to celebrate her victory,
Very nice of him.
and it's great. It's just a great shirt. The design so unique.
Jim had notes.
He texted a picture of it, and he
Nick
said, "Hey,
was not looking for notes,
this
but
is
Jim
for
had them
Andrea."
anyway.
And I was like, "Hey, you could do this or you could do that." And he was furious.
No.
He
it's not.
was broken.
Hey, you could do this. It's
That's what I said.
no, you didn't. You said logo needs to be bigger. Like I spent 5 hours.
Back to the
I spent
basement,
5
trolls.
hours on this design.
Why, Nick?
It's like logo
Why
needs
was
to be
it
bigger.
5 hours.
All right, let's see it.
I could tell you were sensitive in that text, but I wanted to reply back and say, "You're kidding, right?" 5 hours. Then I was like, "No, I'm gonna pick my battles
You
on this.
have
This
no-
might end the show."
Okay. Okay.
Send it
You know
to
what?
Jacob.
No.
Can we make him the arbiter?
Oh, he's about to show it to me.
Hell,
Yeah.
no.
He's pulling it up on his
Okay.
screen. He's going to show
He's
it
got
to
his
me.
laptop.
Here's the thing. Forget geography.
Okay.
Our new challenge now is you're going to learn
Illustrator.
Adobe Illustrator. All right? Because you will learn every country in the world before you
This
pick
is
up on
probably
Adobe
true.
Illustrator.
Did you make
That
these
shit
from
is-
scratch? You're not using like
Yes.
clip art or
no.
something? You made your
Everything-
own football
yes,
helmet?
Everything. Yes.
Oh,
that was all
why
from
do you
scratch.
do this?
All right, let's see it. I'm
you
looking at
always
it
do
here.
things the hard way.
Oh, this is great.
Oh, shut up, Jacob. No, it's not.
I do like it. It's fine.
Oh, come on. He's being sensitive to your needs. I don't give a
Jacob
fuck.
is not sensitive to my needs.
I think
He's
he
never been
is.
sensitive
He
to
likes
my
you
needs.
better than me, so he doesn't shit on you. If I had drawn that, I wish you'd go back in time and tell him I made that. He wouldn't get the words out
I
fast
wish
enough.
we could go back in time and you could learn
Yeah,
Adobe
apparently it is.
Illustrator.
Listen, I'm not saying that I could make it from scratch, but I'm saying why are you making it from scratch? Like if you come to me and you're like, "Hey, I made this apple
How
pie."
else am I going to make it?
And like I grew the wheat and like, slowly harvested this thing and like it took me a year. Like why
how
did
else
you
do
do
you
it
do
that
it?
way? Is there not a way to just go get free clip art of a helmet?
Yeah, there is if I want our stuff to look terrible.
It's already done by professional artists. Why do you have to like
Clip art?
handcraft it?
No, that's not.
That's-
you're,
Come
you're
on.
wrong about that.
That
You're
is
telling-
cheap.
Oh,
That
I
is
guess.
so cheap.
All right. Well, then people need to know anything that's on our merch store. Nick is apparently making these by hand. So even if it's like a picture of like a happy face,
Okay.
Nick made that.
Okay, just where it says champion. Do you know what I had to do to make that?
What did you do?
Okay, first off,
Oh God.
you have to
you
basically
enlarge it?
there's a text. I can't.
Okay, that's fine. I can see it.
There's a text. That
I'm
says
just going to tell you,
champion.
nobody cares about this part.
Yeah.
I do.
No.
No.
That's not
Go
what I
ahead,
mean.
go on.
And it's
I mean,
my
none of the listeners care about describing what you had to do with this.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
I know they don't.
Okay.
So
I know
write
they
the
don't.
word champion.
But
making sure.
This is
Go
Nick's,
ahead.
This is Nick's time
Take
right now.
take Nick's time. Go
so
ahead.
champion.
Yeah.
Okay, so you type that out.
Yes.
Then I had to add the arc.
Yes.
Okay. Then I had to.
So you had to make the
I
words
had to-
bow? Is that what
no,
you mean?
yes. Not
Okay.
only that, but then I had to create the shadow behind it.
Oh,
and then you have to group the shadow.
Okay.
And then you have to merge it, and then you have to create an offset of this in order to get. You see how it's gray
Yeah.
on top and
Yeah.
pink on the bottom.
Uh-huh.
That is because I had to take an offset of that, create a new one, paint it down like that, and then paste it back on top. All
Wow.
that for one word.
That's a lot of effort for one word.
Yes.
It feels like maybe there would have been an easier way to do that.
Which is what?
I don't know. I know that you can create shadow in
So
Microsoft
this is the thing.
Word.
No, hold on.
Just highlight
This
it
is
and
the
pick
thing.
shadow.
Microsoft
No,
Word.
no, no.
You can do it.
this is the thing that pisses me off.
All right, you know what?
Okay,
I accept your challenge on these terms.
This is the
I
thing
get to recreate it without learning Illustrator.
Go for it.
Done. I
Okay,
accept your
and then-
terms.
good.
And
And
I
then-
have to
Hold
get
on,
pretty
hold on.
close.
It has to be on a computer.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I can't draw for shit.
You can't just draw it
No, I
out.
can't
Yeah,
draw
yeah.
for shit. That'd be way worse. I'll bet you I can create something similar on a computer without Illustrator using just probably Microsoft Word and Microsoft Paint.
Oh, go for it.
All right, challenge accepted. And
Here-
then I'll
I
post that.
Here we
Okay.
go. You're going to draw yours up.
Yeah.
Both of them are going to get printed out.
Well, his will be better, but
You're going to present it to me.
No,
So
no.
you can shit
No, no,
on
no.
my art?
No, you can't say, well, his will be better.
it
You
will
go
be
to-
better. You have
No,
better
no, no.
tools.
No,
You're
no,
gonna
no.
present it to
No,
me. You're gonna present
your
the
whole
two pictures to
argument
me.
is that you
He's
could
so
do
upset.
it at
Yep.
the same quality
Stabbing a
as
finger
what I
at
could
me.
do.
You guys can't see this. It's just so violent. He's stabbing a steely index finger at me with just such anger. All right. It's a beautiful shirt, Andrea. It took Nick as long to make this shirt as the entire fantasy football season.
Jim will print up his artwork. Nick will print up his artwork. The two artworks will be presented to me. I
Yes.
won't know whose is whose.
It'll be an art contest,
It'll be an art contest.
and then you can pick.
Okay.
Winner gets to put a bumper sticker on the loser's vehicle.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
What? Yeah.
So you're going to have to get your terms like ironclad specific because I will cheat. So you're going to have to nail
It has to be created from scratch
Okay.
on a computer.
by you.
By
oh,
you.
damn it. See,
Yep.
that's what I was going to do. I was going to go to 99 Designs.
No.
Just, I'll pay for
No.
somebody to do this.
No. It has to be created from
5
scratch on a
hours.
computer by you.
Oh, my God. It's a helmet with the word champions
And-
over it.
and-
he handcrafted
On-
the word
and
champion.
on your honor, Jim,
Yeah.
No.
you get 7 hours. You get 7 hours total.
If I use 7 hours to make this, I would absolutely, I don't even know.
I'm just telling you.
No way.
What? Go on.
That
What
is
would you do?
rock bottom to spend 7 hours.
I'm just telling you, you get 7 hours total.
No.
And if I think that Nick's artwork is better,
Of course you're going to think it's better.
he gets the. I won't know whose is whose.
You just saw his.
I already have forgotten it.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I'm just going to tell you, I already don't remember what it looked like.
Because it's not memorable. It's fine.
I also
Nick.
glanced at it for a moment while we were all talking.
It looks like you could do that out of clip art and just putting words on top. Like,
but
it
that's
doesn't
not how
look
you get to
that
do it.
Difficult.
It has to be made from scratch.
Oh, if I have to do it from Illustrator, well, that's what I'm saying. My point is not that I could sit down in Paint and create this. My point is, why would you do that? Like, it
doesn't matter because this
what
is where we
you've
live now.
created is easily just clip art with words on top. That there's
Okay,
easier ways to
but
get.
you can't. No, you cannot even
You just make
compare
that
those
in
two.
Microsoft Word. You can just there's literally a
You're
funny word, like blimpy word clip art tool in Word. That champion thing probably can be picked out of there. You can bow the words. It's just not that
No,
hard.
no.
Where we live now is you have to make one
I don't agree to any of these.
bumper sticker on the line.
This negates my entire criticism. My entire criticism is that too much effort was put in to bake the pie from
Yes,
scratch.
I know, but I don't think you. So you're gonna say, do it with clip art.
Yeah.
What is the end product of that gonna look like?
Mostly what you've got.
Looks like clip art.
I think it's going to mostly look like what you've got. I think it will be almost
Okay.
indistinguishable.
No. Okay. Do
I
it.
think it's
Do your best. Do
Bumper
your
sticker-
best.
taste
bumper
your
sticker on
choice.
the
Because
line.
here's the other thing too.
Pepsi challenge.
No. Hold on. This is not just. This is not just. Can you do the artwork?
You're so
Okay.
angry.
No. Put it on a T-shirt.
Okay.
Okay. And you have to be able to enlarge it.
oh well, you
'cause
got to create
mine's
a
a
vector?
vector image.
Yeah, vectors.
Oh,
can
yeah,
only
that's
be
tough.
Fuck you.
That doesn't mean that you can't create the vector. Well, I don't know how vectors work.
Exactly.
You can't do
but
that
keep
with clip art.
talking about it like you do.
You cannot do
That's
that
the
with
best
clip art.
part. Keep talking
All
like
right,
you
so
do.
you can't take clip art and just put it in and make it a vector.
No.
No.
All right. Well, then I guess I don't know what I'm talking about.
We all know that.
Yeah. Only on a technicality do I not know what I'm talking about.
By technicality, you mean actual things.
I guess. It just feels like having to create things from scratch can't possibly be true. I'll bet you there's vector clip arts. I'll bet you I could find vector clip art of a football helmet,
Okay.
generic football helmet.
I tell you, there are two people in
I'll
this
bet you I
room
could
that
do
do a whole lot of merch art,
yeah.
and the other person is talking a lot.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This is true. Whatever. It's gorgeous. Congratulations, Andrea Anderson. You are the champion of fantasy football.
And Andrew, just know that your shirt has turned this show apart.
Yeah.
It has torn this show asunder.
Yeah.
This may be the last episode of Pod Therapy because you had to have your damn shirt.
But enjoy your shirt, Andrea.
Enjoy your shirt, which is now limited edition. There will never be another.
Jim's feelings get hurt, and he sulks and almost quits the
Oh,
show.
God.
Nick's feelings get hurt.
He is
He
enraged.
just gets mad.
I get sad. That's okay. We have different ways of emoting. Or it could be his roid rage from all of his peanut steroids.
That might be it.
That could be
I
it,
don't
too.
care if you don't like it. I don't care if you don't like it. The thing that bothers me is,
Seems like you
the
care a little bit.
arrogance of I could do that with clip art. Then why the hell aren't you doing it?
I thought it was clip art, man. That's what I'm trying to say. I thought it was clip
Oh.
art, and they were like, it took me 5 hours. And I'm like, what? Like, it's clip art. You did clip art. But I understand.
Okay.
I get it.
All right.
It is more complex than I understand, which I appreciate. In your defense, I will come to your side on this. It is true that a lot of things do seem really simple and easy to emulate, but then you get into it and you discover it's actually very complicated to do it correctly from scratch.
Yeah, and I actually had a similar experience recently. I thought that doing therapy was really difficult.
Okay.
And I've since discovered that it's very, very
Since
easy.
you did a podcast,
Yeah.
you realize this is a
Nick,
joke.
first question.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. We got some deep ones here. We got a deep one to start off
Nick
the
was looking
show.
at his computer. I thought he had the first question
No,
queued up.
no.
He does not.
I'm just pointing out that where it says fantasy right there.
Oh,
that
Christ.
word.
He's got
Okay,
Illustrator
that
open
word
now.
took a long time to do that
Yes,
because it's not just the
beautiful.
letters.
Oh,
it's
God.
the pink below it,
Yeah, I can
and it's
see
the
the pink,
shading,
the
and then you have to get
accents.
the shading to blend,
Yeah, blend.
instead of it's just being all in one piece.
It's very nice, Nick. I
Would you
love
feel
it.
better if I let you punch Jim in the arm once?
That would end the show, goddammit.
Make it the face, and you got a deal.
We talked about this.
All right.
I have one stipulation in my
We'll
contract.
compromise on chest.
Okay, fine.
Sternum punch.
All right.
Fine.
All right. First question. Sexually abused by a therapist from Cody.
Hi, Cody.
Hi. I have been a fan from the very beginning. All right. I've been struggling with a moment in my life. When I was a younger guy, 16 years old, I was sexually abused by a therapist. It was awful. My secrets and feelings were used against me. I felt no trust looking back. The therapist is no longer alive. I had so many questions about my sexuality and feelings. Now I just feel lost. It's been almost a decade and a half. My trust was so damaged and violated, shocking I know. I never knew and still don't know how to move forward. I've tried groups and other people, but just can't quite find that trust that I need. Ultimately, I feel this lingers, and it weighs on me. I'm not sure that I can ever be the husband, father, or partner I want to be. I know it happened to me. I know I am an anomaly. I don't know how to trust. Thanks to all three of you. P.S. My self-esteem is too low to reach out to the best of Las Vegas, so I've settled for the second best. Thanks, Cody. Man, I really liked Cody until that last part.
When someone has been sexually assaulted, one of the things we always say is, well, therapy is going to be very helpful, and it's when it's a therapist that did it.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
What do you do?
Yeah, that's a tough situation, and it happens. I've heard of this happening. Obviously, I mean, therapists aren't, immune from bad therapists.
They're bad.
like
they're bad
any
people
other-
There's
in
bad behavior.
yeah.
in different jobs. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it is one of those professions that I don't know how to word this, but it's easy to prey on people, unfortunately.
Can be.
I think we do, for the most part, I think we do a pretty good job of, weeding those
out.
people out,
Yeah.
but some are always going to slip past, and it sucks. It's very
Yeah.
unfortunate, and there's not a whole lot we can do other than just continue to try to find those individuals and put them in jail.
So I'll start by asking you guys a question. How much of Cody's feelings here do you think stem from the therapist being dead now, if any?
I wonder about how that would feel. I've definitely worked with people who have gone through some kind of sexual abuse or assault, and when the perpetrator's dead, I've witnessed them to have conflicting emotions usually. There's a part of them that's like kind of relieved, in a sense. There's another part of them that kind of feels like they got away with it.
Yeah.
Now they're gone.
That
I
was where
can't
my mind went
confront them.
when Cody said that.
Right.
Yeah.
That you can't really go back. You can't do anything about that. And, Cody doesn't say that anything really came of it. There was no day of justice. There was no reckoning. This person probably didn't get caught. this just happened. And Cody, this is so broken on so many levels. I think first we have to acknowledge you were 16. You were a child. And you don't say this in your letter, but I want to take a moment because for so many people who have lived through sexual assault, especially as a young person, they struggle with feelings of guilt and they struggle with feelings of responsibility. They're confused. And it's because they feel like, oh my gosh, did I invite this? Did I request this? Did I enjoy this? What does that mean about me? And when I work with people that are going through that kind of experience, one of the things I often try to tell them and just help them understand is that the experience of sexuality is often triggering of automatic kind of reactions in your body and your mind. And that doesn't mean that you're consenting to it. That just means that that's happening. It's happening with you and to you. And it's my opinion that a 16-year-old cannot consent anyway. There's no such thing as that. And this professional obviously should have known better. And I think you know that, but I just want to speak to that possibility of struggling with guilt or struggling with a sense of responsibility, because for so many people, that is a really common feeling. And it's not true. They're not responsible for what happened. They don't have anything to apologize for. Their mere existence or their interactions with an adult or with a caretaker, or in this case with a medical professional, those are always innocent. Even if you're being playful, or even if you're being a kid and you're a little flirtatious, whatever it is, they're supposed to be the adult.
Well, and not only I've heard similar things from people before that have been victims of sexual assault, and I'm thinking of a couple specific examples of people I worked with where they were just kind of like, why didn't I do anything? I felt like I was frozen, like I should have done something. And then they just beat themselves up, not realizing that the freeze response is a body's natural response to a threat. We always talk about fight or flight, and there's a third one, which is freeze. Fight, flight, or freeze. And if we're in a situation where we can't outrun our threat, or we're not strong enough to fight our threat, then we play dead. And that's a natural reaction. So that's so that's how your body will respond. And so it's not really being fair to yourself to beat yourself up over not doing anything about it, when that was just that you couldn't have done anything about it if you wanted to.
Right.
That's just the way your natural reaction was.
And to be clear, obviously Cody didn't state that in his letter, but we're extrapolating because we know that there are listeners who have encountered this, who have gone through this, and it is a really common reaction. And so we definitely want to speak to that sense of guilt and shame. Now, what you're talking about, Cody, is trust. And you're saying, look, I talked to a therapist. This is a therapy show. And I guess one thing, Cody, that I just want to acknowledge the tension between you and us for a second, because you mentioned that it is so hard to trust. And the fact that you listen to this show and that we often conduct ourselves playfully, behind the scenes kind of way, that's sort of the brand, is like, hey, we are therapists, but we're off duty, we're hanging out with you. And the whole point was to humanize our profession by offering ourselves as kind of exhibit A of real people that happen to do this job. And I hope that the experiment of our show and the fact that you're interacting with us at all does start to kind of heal that gap a little bit, where you can kind of feel like, hey, that person was an outlier, this profession isn't this, and hopefully starts to, touch toward healing, if that's possible. But gosh, Nick, whenever he talks about, I've tried to do group, I've tried to talk to other people, I struggle with that depth of trust that's required for this, and how do I get that back? Gosh, man, I'm trying really hard to think of something besides a slow and methodical process.
Yeah, I think you just got to be kind to yourself, and you just have to be patient with yourself. And he makes a really good point here in that it's not just an issue of opening up to another therapist or another group. It's I may never be the husband, father, or partner that I want to be, because I think he says it really well in this first paragraph here. My secrets and feelings were used against me.
Right.
That, regardless of that being a therapist or if that being
just a friend,
a partner, a friend, when you open up to somebody and you are 100% vulnerable and that's used against you, you learn a lesson. Like really quickly, unfortunately. And you make that promise yourself, I'm never going to do that again. Even if you want to, it becomes incredibly difficult to open up on that level ever again. But the best thing that you can do is you just have to take it really slow and be patient. And it's not going to happen overnight. But if it's something that you continue to work on and you continue to push yourself, not way outside your comfort zone, but just, open the door and take one step out and then come back in,
Yeah.
and just allow yourself, that comfort of coming back inside your comfort zone, but then push that boundary just ever so slightly. And if you do that, you can walk 1,000 miles just taking one step at a time.
There's value to that.
Yep.
And Cody, we're taking the position that trust and giving of trust is inherently good, because in your letter you express as if you would desire to do that, as if you feel that your inability to trust is hindering you. And I guess I want to come alongside you and say, at the end of the day, I want what you want. And if you feel this is an area that you need to stretch and get better at, then of course the Nick's advice is very on point, that it's those baby steps, incremental trust, not overdoing it, giving yourself that little bit of discomfort and allowing people to demonstrate that they're with you. But I guess another part of me would want to say that I don't know that you are required to offer your trust. Sometimes in life, we've gone through an experience like this, and it makes us incapable of feeling comfortable being vulnerable with others. And while I think there's great health in being vulnerable with others, and while I think it's very important for generating insight for ourselves, I think that's a big part of what therapy even is, I also respect that for some people, especially with PTSD, especially with traumatic disorders, which I would consider this an example of, it's often dangerous for them to become too vulnerable too fast. And with patients like that, I often caution them as a therapist, I don't want you to trust me. And I've said that to many patients in the very beginning, especially whenever they hint at some kind of trauma, especially if there's been a caretaker problem. One of the first things I'll tell them is, I'm going to challenge you not to trust me. Not to trust me. Even though I'm your therapist, even though I'm here, let me earn that. Make me earn that. And I want you to, when you're ready, you share what you want to share, but don't you ever feel like you have to. And if I ever gently nudge you in that direction, you have my permission to resist me. You have my permission to let me know you decline. And I want you to have permission to do that. And that's absolutely okay. And for some people, that's the way their normal's going to be. And if they can ever make moves in the opposite direction, that's huge. But I don't always want that to be the expectation. There's a lot of therapeutic process that can happen and a lot of growth that can happen. And that may not require trust necessarily. It may require self-examination and having tools to examine how you're feeling, how you behave with others, and being open to being honest with oneself. But that doesn't always require that you trust another person.
Well, and what if he just starts with the person he's closest to?
Sure.
Say, I'm not gonna work on building trust with anybody else in my life except my partner.
There you
and
go.
just start
I like
with
that.
one
Start somewhere
person.
safe. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you can kind of get outside your comfort zone with that one person, but everybody else gets to stay where they're at.
Right.
And you can just kind of slowly build off of that. I don't know.
Well, and Cody, I'll tell you right now, there are so many people that as we're reading your letter, they sadly know every word that you're saying. And they know what it is to never feel safe with other people, to feel like this innocence was lost where they could let their guard down and be vulnerable and be real and be confused, and that was taken advantage of in one way or another. And so many people hear you. There are sexual assault survivors support groups. Sadly, there are many in our world because they are so necessary. You mentioned trying groups before. You didn't specify, so I just want to speak to that in case that's something you're interested in learning more about and looking into. There are many organizations that host those. They're anonymous, they're online ones, and that really might be something you want to do some searching for and see if that's something that could benefit you too.
I like the idea of the anonymous online
Could be a
stuff,
good
especially to start.
Yeah, that could be a great step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Cody, thank you not only for listening to the show and for sharing this letter and giving us a chance to kind of expose some of the complexities of this, but thank you for trusting this show and interacting with two therapists. We know that didn't come naturally to you, and you probably had to challenge yourself to even participate in this podcast as a listener and as a writer. Thank you for trusting. I'm glad that you did.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for writing. And yeah, I mean, you can do, it's like Jim was saying, whatever you want that outcome to be. I mean, you can get there. It's not going to be great, but I mean, you can get there.
At your speed.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what that speed is.
That's right. One step at a time, buddy. We are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we are talking about, the writer's stepfather's paranoid delusions. Oh, that'll be a deep one. Good, it'll be a nice light show. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
Today's episode is brought to you by Robert Brownie Jr. Mintz, Kayla Lansbury, Crazy Manana Scoop, Malia, and Cindy Ash. Would you like to sponsor the show? Become a therapy producer at patreon.com/therapy. We had somebody write in with some questions.
All right.
Okay.
Anna wrote in with some trivia.
Yes.
All right. I know last summer you said the Olympics are overrated, but I have included some Olympics-related trivia for the show.
All right.
That may or may not be relevant by the time you record your next episode.
Fine with it.
True. Final answer.
Nailed it.
The Paralympics are set to begin at the beginning of March, though, so maybe these questions will still be in that time frame.
Okay.
All right, well, we got it. Okay.
Well, the final medals haven't happened in the Winter Olympics
I
yet.
thought they stopped giving out medals because there was so much doping and cheating in the Russians.
No, just the Russians.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Question number 1. Which of the following countries has not hosted a Winter Olympics?
Oh.
Okay.
Norway, Japan, Germany, or Finland?
Huh. Jeez. I was really hoping one of them was going to be like Ecuador.
Jamaica.
That would have helped. Florida. So Germany, Japan, Norway, or Finland?
Yes.
I feel like in my lifetime there's been a Japan one.
Okay.
So that feels correct. And there ain't no way they're not doing these in Finland and Norway, right? So probably Germany. I'm going with Germany. The Germans haven't earned a freaking Winter
shit.
Olympics. Not since
What-
that World
what'd you
War
do, Nick?
II shit.
No, I was so confident that I
That
knew
you
the answer. And then, but it's specifically Winter Olympics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that threw me
Yep.
for a loop.
Yeah.
Because I can name an Olympics games held in any of those countries.
Oh, but it's got to be winter, which is the every
Yeah.
4-year one?
Well, yeah, it's there's an Olympics every 2 years,
Yeah.
usually when there's not a pandemic.
Yeah.
There's usually an Olympic every 2 years, and they alternate. So it's every 4 years is summer, and every 4 years is winter.
Oh, okay. Oh, is that what they do?
Yeah.
Oh. All right. So
Okay, I know
I'm
my
going
answer.
with Germany because I don't think the Germans have been allowed to host anything for a long time.
You know that
They know what they did.
You know there was an Olympics in Germany that Hitler hosted.
What? No, shut up. Hitler? He hosted an Olympics?
Yeah, that guy that you have a
Jim,
tattoo
yes.
of. Yes, that
It's
guy.
not him, it's his name. It's pronounced Adolphe.
The one that-
And I told you about Adolphe.
Jesse Owens won.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. That was like the big FU to the Germans,
There was a
right?
lot
You're
of
not
news
the master
coverage.
race.
Yeah.
A lot of news coverage.
Well, what the do I know?
I mean, people are really just now starting
just
to
now
talk
getting
about
it. Yeah. Okay, here's the
But
only reason.
those were definitely Summer Olympics.
I know that Hitler hosted the Olympics now that you've said it, but only for one reason, and that's in the movie Contact.
Yep.
You remember
course.
this? In the movie Contact,
Yep.
aliens get the first televised signals of Earth, and it's Hitler at the Olympics giving a speech.
It's not just the movie Contact. There are a lot of
that run with
science
that?
fiction movies and books that do that.
Because that's like the first televised broadcast.
Yes.
It's like, yeah, so
I did not know that.
Well, it's not the first televised broadcast. It was at the time it was
global.
the strongest signal
because it was a global
televised broadcast. Yeah.
Okay.
Huh.
At least that's what the movies say.
Yeah.
That could be wrong.
Or
I'm
it's
basing that statement
the aliens are
entirely
Nazis.
off of what the movies say.
That feels right.
Right.
That feels right. So I'm going with Germany. Final answer.
Okay, Jacob.
I mean, I can't name a Winter Olympics in Germany. I also can't name a Winter Olympics in Japan, Norway, or Finland.
Strong counterpoint.
So, I feel like Japan is the answer that Anna wants us to take.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the
a
one that's just
decoy.
out there.
Yeah. She did that on purpose.
I'm going to say Finland.
Okay, I'm also going to go with Finland
Oh.
because Oslo was in Norway.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, that's true. I can't
Yeah.
name a Winter Olympic that was in Norway.
Yeah.
Huh.
I'm just going to go with Finland.
That was
That's-
my real thought there was like there's no way that there hasn't been a Winter Olympic in Norway.
Right?
Japan seems too easy. Germany seems also
too
pretty
Nazi.
and also like
Too Nazi.
Like Germany is a
It's-
major world player.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And a Nazi.
I'd be surprised if they haven't had one.
Yeah. Well, the good news is that 2 of us got the answer correct.
Okay.
Oh, was it me? So
Finland.
Well,
So we
that's
got it.
nice. Good for you,
Okay.
Finland.
Now we have a follow-up question.
Oh,
True or false? Finland borders Russia. I knew we'd get some geography in there.
why don't you guys
she
go
says,
first,
she
and then
says
I'll
sorry
go
for
after you.
sorry for the geography question. No, I
Yeah.
think it's appropriate you go first.
I don't.
No.
Well, it's up there, right? Yeah. Is this an island? Is Finland an island?
Yeah, does that island share a border with Russia? Yeah, that's the question.
Well, define border. Like, so from your smile, I'm going with that. Water doesn't count. No. Yes. It's
Wait,
so hard
wait.
to read you right now. I'm sorry. I'm going with no because I feel like
Okay, so you're going
water
with
doesn't
false?
count.
Okay,
Well, now I want
false.
to go true. All right, hold on. Jacob slapping his face with a sand,
Which
filter.
usually means what?
In regards to Finland.
All right, I'm going with no. Final answer. False. Final answer. I
True.
guess final answer. Means
True final answer.
It's true.
Yes, it's true.
Finland shares a border with Russia.
Finland is
And
definitely not an
Finland is
island.
not an island.
Oh, it's next to Russia.
Yes.
Wow.
There's a lot of things that border Russia.
Damn.
Russia's really big.
Russia's big.
Wow. Jeez. Wow. Okay. Well,
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you, Anna. If you'd like to submit Pod Therapy trivia, just email it to us, podtherapyguys@gmail.com. Make sure you hide the answers somewhere near the bottom so you can play along. All right. Question number 2. Stepfather's paranoid delusions. Hi,
Thinks that Finland is an island.
Hi, Pod Therapists, long-time listener, first-time writer. I have a few questions concerning a new mental illness in the family. I'll try my very best to keep my question to a reasonable length, but no promises. First, some background info. My dad died when I was 7. Some freak cancer came out of nowhere, and he was gone in 6 weeks. My brother and I were raised by a single working mom, and she didn't get remarried until I was 20 and had already moved out. They've been married 10 plus years now. I'm 31. My stepdad is a nice guy. He's really good for my mom. I like him, but we're not very close. One summer day in 2020, I got a call from my mom asking if I could go to their house and feed their dog. She was away checking my stepdad into the mental health ward at a hospital a few towns away. The story goes that he shook her out of her sleep at 6 a.m., insisting that they go golfing immediately. He wouldn't let her take a shower or eat breakfast. He wanted to go now. Once they were in the car, he told her all about how their house had been bugged for months and how he had he had to tell her that the FBI was investigating him. He was sure he was about to be fired and arrested immediately, and he kept bringing up minor embarrassing moral failures in his youth as possible reasons why. He was even convinced that they were reading his thoughts and relaying it all to the authorities. A full list of these delusions would be a mile long, but he was clearly having some sort of breakdown. My mom convinced him that something was obviously wrong and that he should check himself into a mental health ward for help. I visited him twice. It was a brand new experience for me. Seeing the childlike state of all these adults all these adults were in was eye-opening and crushing, not to mention the conditions of the hospital itself. I've never been more sad. He came home 10 days later with a diagnosis, I think, of type 2 bipolar depression with paranoid tendencies and new medications. He's shaky, he's slow, he works from home 4 days a week and goes into the office once a week. And this is generally only on the only day that he showers. He's a very clever guy, an engineer for a big auto company. My poor mom is a very adventurous person. She likes to travel, ski, do social things, and now her partner can't muster the gumption to do much other than doze on the couch. She says losing my dad was easier on her mental health than all this. I don't know the full story, but he told her something similar happened to him 10 years earlier when he was with his first wife. He never told my mom about it. He thought these issues were in the past, and he was making improvements. He was going to therapy and working to get his medications adjusted, but last autumn he regressed. His symptoms came back, and he checked himself into the hospital again, basically under threat of divorce from my mom. It turns out he had been skipping his appointments. I'm sorry for rambling, but here are my questions. 1. How do I act around him now? Mostly, I'm just as nice and gentle as possible, but I always feel like it's just empty platitudes. I haven't been able to have a real conversation with him, and I always feel like I'm talking down to him. I don't want to treat him like a child. 2, how do I get over the constant anxiety that he's going to relapse again? Even when he's doing well, I'm always nervous that I'm going to visit someday only to discover a beautiful mind type situation in the garage. 3, my mom feels blindsided. She says he should have been more upfront about his history while they were dating. She feels like this isn't what she signed up for and is contemplating divorce. Even though we aren't close, I feel terrible for him. I'm not sure how he would take care of himself in his current state. They're in couples therapy now, but it doesn't seem to be going great. I'm not sure how to feel about any of this. Thanks again, guys, for reading this novella. I don't expect you to have any mind-blowing revelations for me.
Oh, good.
Honestly, getting it all off my chest has helped a lot already. Any advice you have for me or my mom would be appreciated. Thanks again, Scoop Walrus.
Wow, okay.
That is a big one.
That is a big one. That's a tough situation. I don't think we've had a question like this before.
Yeah, a lot of layers to this.
So let's start with number 1. How do I act around him now? So I think this is a question that a lot of people, when you kind of have your first experience with mental health, everybody's got this question.
Right.
Everybody's like, oh my God. And then you just kind of, because, it's something that you kind of read about or you see in movies and that's the impression that you get. And so now you don't want to say anything, like you're constantly on guard, like, well, what if I say this and then he reacts this way and I spiral him into a relapse or I trigger him or I cause this.
I think this is beyond just mental health. I think this is health in general.
Yeah.
Like when people have a big health problem or something like that.
Oh yeah.
I think people run into the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think specifically with this case, I don't think you need to change anything you're doing. I think you don't need to be afraid of triggering him or, spinning him into a relapse, because you've had 10 years of experience with him without that happening. Yeah. I think you just be yourself and you approach it just the same way that you always have been. And I think the best thing to do is just, be curious about it and ask questions if you have questions. And I think he would probably appreciate that.
Yeah. So I'm a couple of things here. I mean, you ask, how do I talk to him? I agree with all that. You ask, how do I deal with this anxiety that I'm going to show up and one day it's going to be this chaos show? And then you also talk about your mom's situation where she feels blindsided. And obviously that one is very interesting. And I definitely want to open up a conversation about what the ramifications of that are. I mean, here we find out that stepdad, he concealed a mental illness, that he had a significant mental illness. He had concealed it. It had happened. And if you do the timeline on this, I guess that stepdad had said, yeah, this happened like 10 years ago. They've been married for about that long. So apparently it was not long before stepdad met Scoop Walrus's mother that he had some kind of psychotic episode and didn't reveal that. And so, hey, there's a big discussion there about what are our requirements about being transparent about stuff like this. Do we have to be? The guy lived 10 years and it didn't come up again. He probably had every reason to believe it wouldn't. It was some kind of fluke. But here it is. So there's a lot of pieces to this, but I do want to pit stop for a second just for the general audience on some of these symptoms and some of the disease that we're talking about here. So bipolar 2 usually has to do with states of awareness. So manic states or hypomanic on the high end, where a person has incredible energy like they've been smoking meth, they're not sleeping, they have grandiose euphoria, amazing self-confidence, very poor judgment, high impulsivity, and then swinging to the lower end can be in very deep depression. Sometimes there's this adjacent symptom that will add to that diagnosis where we will indicate that the patient also has paranoid delusions. A lot of times we'll really see paranoid delusions showing up with schizophrenia, but it seems like in this case, they're not having the other symptoms of schizophrenia, so they're attaching it to a bipolar diagnosis to indicate that there was a manic episode that went along with this. So that seems like, and again, I don't know, but from what the writer's describing, it seems like stepdad had a manic episode, which I'm surprised they picked bipolar 2 and not 1 if he's having paranoid delusions, but had a manic episode, and then in that heightened state experienced the delusions. And it doesn't seem like he's experiencing them all the time, but he has had episodes of experiencing them. So to remind the audience, if you're a longtime listener, you already know this, but paranoid delusions, or delusions in general, delusions are different than hallucinations. Hallucinations are whenever you perceive with your auditory and visual equipment something that is not there, right? You see something that isn't there. You see shadow people. Or
So
you
the
hear
difference
voices.
is, like, I believe the FBI is watching me,
Right.
or I see an FBI agent over there who is watching me.
That's it precisely.
Yes.
A hallucination, I hear it, I see it. A delusion, I suspect it. It's an untrue interpretation of the world. And those delusions, because they don't have any evidence attached to them, they sound conspiratorial, which is often why they verge into paranoia. Though not all delusions are paranoid delusions. There's many different delusions. There's erotomania delusions, where you perceive that somebody is in love with you, or believe that a famous person is, secretly trying to tell you through the television that they want you to, follow them and marry them on an island. Okay, that's a specific delusion. Paranoid delusions usually sound like this: the perception that there's people out there, there's some kind of secret order, they want to control you, or you are in trouble, or you're going to be arrested. Also, this idea that they can read your thoughts. I've had patients in the past who have believed that the stars were satellites that the government was using to read their mind. And there tends to be this heightened sense of speciality. I am important. I am special. There's a cabal that would want to investigate me or seize me or get to me because I am important. And if you go back and watch the movie A Beautiful Mind, that is an excellent portrayal of really all the above. That person had visual and auditory hallucinations and delusions, and they really had schizophrenia. So it's important to take a second just to speak to what these symptoms were and why we call them paranoid delusions, and why that's not a hallucination.
I think something else with The Beautiful Mind that, and you'd know better than I would, both of you, but one thing to me that jumps out at me about that film is I think it presents the other people around him.
Right.
It comes out of nowhere as far as these people are concerned, and then once they discover that this is the case with him, with Russell Crowe's character in that film, who's the real name of the person I can't think of.
John Nash.
Thank you, John Nash. That as far as your mother goes,
Right.
That's an interesting. It's.
Well, yeah, because they're all interacting with him. He's in the movie. He's married,
Right.
and he's living a life. He's working, and then it all wraps up into the delusion, right?
Right.
And that's what was happening here. I got to get my wife out of here.
Mhm.
We're going to be arrested, and very many times I see it go the other way, where they're like, "You're in on it, aren't you? You're working
Right.
for them. How do I know I can trust you?" I've had paranoid delusions come to me as a therapist and say, "I want to work with you. You seem nice, but how do I know you're not one of them?" And so in this case, medication is really the number one form of treatment, because they're going to need medicines that kind of work on that antipsychotic sort of neurology to quell this. I mean, we can teach them safety checking behaviors and the beginnings of cognitive behavioral therapy to question this, but it is such a deeply held belief, and they pick up clues and little insights all over the place. And so it's just really hard to combat it without medication. So this comes back to, this point about the mother being blindsided, now saying, I don't know this man anymore. He's literally not showering 6 days a week. He's on a couch. I signed up for a marriage to live with my partner, to go out and experience life. And now they're experiencing this mental illness calamity. Apparently they had some kind of indicator light 10 years ago, and they didn't reveal that. I mean, what are you guys' thoughts on the necessity of transparency? Or is that private? Is it medical information? It's like none of your business. This was a bad episode. Why do I have to tell you?
It's certainly private,
It's
but I don't know if it's. I don't know.
It's private, but in my opinion, if my private issues will become part
Right.
of our relationship, I should probably tell you about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But did you know at the time? Maybe you just had a bad break and you're like, well, geez,
That's really where my thought
10
is going.
years.
There is like, is he not? Is he? But was he saying, this happened to me?
right.
It is not continuing to happen to me.
Right.
This was something that happened. I got it under control. It might be a case of. I mean, I've done this in my life where something happens to me, and I say, oh, I've got it. I get through it. I've got it under control. I've got this wrapped up. And then you realize sometime later, I don't have this as under control as I think I do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, it hadn't happened to me to this degree, but I mean, it's happened to me in lesser degrees. I can extrapolate this. I can extrapolate something like this going on
I could see people relating.
where I say, like,
Yeah.
I got this. Oh, shit, I don't got this.
Well, and honestly, I kind of feel for the stepdad in this case. Because, like, if I had a mental
Absolutely.
break and, this happened, it says, it happened with stepdad's first wife. That's a different part of his life.
Mhm.
I could have tracked it up to a million things. Obviously, I was in a bad marriage. That was coming to an end. I divorced you. I got remarried. I started a whole new life. And, like, I don't know that I would feel the need to, like, tell you, hey, I once went to a psych hospital because I wasn't doing very good.
Right.
I don't know that I need to be an open book about that. And for a decade, apparently, I was doing fine until this happened. And the writer even says, look, stepdad, he was doing good recently. It says at the end of the letter, he says, look, he was making improvements. He was going to therapy. He was working to get his medications adjusted. Last autumn, he regressed. I assume that means again. I was having a hard time reading this. If he was saying for 10 years, stepdad was taking care of himself privately and then he regressed, or if the writer's saying the first incident happened about playing golf, then he got help. I think that's what happened, because then the writer
He
says,
said he was going to therapy regularly.
going to
and then he
therapy
started skipping
regularly.
sessions.
He regressed. Symptoms came back, and he checked himself into a hospital again under the threat of divorce from my mom. So yeah, I guess that happened a second time, which proves that it's manageable with the medicines. But that's another problem too. When the writer talks about stepdad sitting on the couch and not moving, I think he's probably being medicated by antipsychotics. Those often have a very powerful effect. Like if you're on quetiapine or something like that, this is something you and I used to see in our program all the time. People that were on antipsychotics, we'd have to get in there and push them, like get out of the house, get outside, go take an appointment, walk, because it's very easy to become lethargic.
Yeah.
But this question of like, what does the mom do? I mean, really, to the writer, it's a hard one, brother, because, I mean, obviously she has the right to do anything at this point. And, nobody's going to judge her for that. If she looks at it and says, look, this isn't what I signed up for, I certainly can't stand there and say you're a bad person. I mean,
No.
I would encourage her to go with the aggregate of data. And what I mean by that, so you did say at the end of your letter, like, you have any advice for my mom? So, all right, Scoop Walrus's mom, here's my advice. Generally speaking, humans regress to the mean. What we mean by that is the best predictor of their future is usually their past. Now, health crises and mental health crises can sometimes depart from the pattern. And usually, big picture, if somebody has a history of having gone through a bad episode of this, and then gotten it under control and had 10 years symptom-free, the bet is that they're probably going to return to that baseline. That appears to be their baseline. If they're under good care and you're managing the medications well, in theory, they ought to return to that baseline. And eventually, the doctors might want to wean him off of the medicines and see if he doesn't regress back into a psychotic state. And so that might be something that could be done over time. And it sounds like you're still in the early part of this process where you're still doing the trial and error thing of figuring out what medicines work. So my hope or my advice would be to hang in there, because my bet would be that over time he probably returns to a baseline of managing the problem. But it's your life, and you may go through some time and realize, I don't want to do this. They're doing couples therapy. I think you guys are doing all the right things, but you're also a human and you have rights. You could make your own choices, I think.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add as far as the mom's perspective. I'm not in that situation.
Yeah.
And I can't tell her what she should do, and I certainly can't judge her for whatever choice that she would make for that.
Justified either.
Because I don't. Yeah, exactly. I think that
if
your
she
call.
wants to make a go of it, that I think that she would beat herself up later if she doesn't make a go of it.
Could be a good point.
But if she doesn't want to make a go of it, if she feels like this is just outside of, like Jim was saying, outside of what she signed up for, I think that's legitimate too.
Yeah, and she knows her better than we know her.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah. What about number 2?
Constant anxiety that the person's going to regress again. And again, to the writer, I mean, I get it. I would be anxious too if we've already had several episodes of this. It is scary. I mean, but at the end of the day, if the person is following their medication orders, they're usually well managed. And I don't remember what episode it was, Nick, but we did have a guest who had lived with paranoid schizophrenia. It was your hockey teammate.
Yeah.
And he told his story, and it was very profound. And he talked about going to the psych ward. He talked about being very unwell and getting medicated and now living very, very well. So there are positive stories for you and your mother to listen to. I would encourage you both, well, maybe your mom more than you, but to the mom, I would encourage you to go to NAMI. NAMI.org. There's a friends and family support group that is really designed for you. And why not? Why not get advice and opinions from other people whose friends and family live with these illnesses and how they've adjusted, the decisions they've made. Could be a great place just to get that support and understanding and coaching from peers.
I think a big part of the anxiety comes from fear of not being able to predict outcomes.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're not very familiar with mental health and psychotic features of certain diagnoses, then there's a lot of unknown out there, and
Right.
that can be very anxiety producing. And I think one of the biggest things that you can do is just understand that you're safe. I think that's part of the issue too, is a lot
Right.
of people learn about mental health from watching movies,
Yeah.
thrillers and horror stories where the
point.
main
Good
character
point.
has a
Yeah.
mental health illness, and so you think, oh my God, is that going to happen to me? No. I
Yeah.
mean, for the most part, most people with a mental health diagnosis are less violent than the average person.
That's very true. And
Uh,
yet they are hurt more often. And that's
Yeah,
what
they're more likely to be hurt by
Injured.
violence
Exactly.
than the perpetrator.
And that's exactly the experience that we had. I mean, I'll tell a quick story on this because I think it's rare that we get a question about this level of severity. So it's important to normalize it. When Nick and I don't know if this is when we first met, because we first met on that dating site. But this was later. This was when we were working together for the first time. So,
Right.
after the dating days.
Yeah.
But speed dating, I think is what it was. It was a nice one. Go ahead.
Just tell the fucking story.
I don't know. Jacob's like sighing and staring at me. I feel
You
like
should
he
really
doesn't-
hire somebody to come in and do the comedy. Oh, wait, you did.
Ah!
Yet you still insist.
Anyway, we were running a program and we had patients of all types. But in order to get into the program, people, they were firstly diagnosed with severe mental illness and they had the double trouble of addiction. So we were dealing with the highest possible quadrant of difficult patients. And we had one, I think you weren't there anymore by this point, but he had these exact symptoms, just illusionary, not hallucinatory. And one day I get a call from our staff member who's dealing with this patient, and this patient is convinced that there is this cabal of cops and agents that are after him, that we're in on it. And our staff member was in this patient's apartment and standing with him, and the patient had a knife. And, and so I said, okay, well, this is not okay. I need you to get the heck out of that apartment. And so there was this whole standoff thing, but the patient wasn't being dangerous. They were scared for themselves. And so they were holding the knife to protect themselves from us. And so my staff member's in the building and like trying to talk this guy down. And so I immediately say, get the fuck out of that apartment. The only way you're going to get hurt is by doing what you're doing right now.
Right.
Is cornering him, trying to assure him that you're not going to hurt him. Walk out. He's not going to hurt himself, and he's not going to hurt anybody else. Just leave and give him the space. He will calm down. So the situation did get very complex. It had a lot of layers to it. We did ultimately need to call for help. And so we did have the first responders come. We did have the police come. Nobody got injured. But that was my big fear, was that when the cops got there, they were going to charge in and see this guy with a knife and not understand mental illness. And somebody's going to get hurt, not because he was like a dangerous man. He wasn't. He was a simple, very, very straightforward man. He wouldn't hurt anybody. But like the complexity of this, right? So luckily I got there before the cops. And so as the cops were and they had like their gear on and the whole business because they were going to breach the door and the whole thing. And so like I got to them first and I was able to explain to them, hey, this is my patient. Here's what's going on. He very likely has a knife. He has no history of violence. He is not going to do anything to you, but he is going to believe that you are part of a conspiracy and you're here to get him. And you're dealing with a very scared person right now. And that's the way I need you to approach this. So I realize you guys are not nonsense people. You're not in the business of like talking people down. But if there's anybody on your team capable of that, I'd really recommend that guy go in first and talk. And luckily, this particular unit did have somebody who was really well versed in that. And so they bashed the door open, but they didn't come in screaming. They didn't come in scary. I mean, they had to knock the door open, but then they had one officer come in. He took off all of his armor and he walked in and he just talked to him for a second. And then he said, we are going to take you. You need to put that knife down. You're going to the hospital right now. And the only reason we're here is because you have that knife. You put that down, I'll let you go with the paramedics. And so they talked him down. They de-escalated him. He was safe. So I want to speak to that because we have to break through some of the stigma that
is nice
anybody
to hear.
going through. It's a great story.
That's
It
a
ended up
really
well.
good story.
He got in the ambulance. I was right there with him. He was fine.
Yeah.
And nobody got hurt, and everything was fine. But exactly this kind of story where we don't appreciate the person's not violent. They're not a danger to others. Now, of course, there's always going to be exception to the rule, but it's important that we normalize some of this and understand the mental health of it and not that these people are like the Joker running around in Gotham City. So important stuff. Anyway, Ryder, I've belabored this enough. Thank you for writing in. It's a great question. Very, very important stuff, and I'm glad you brought it to our attention so we could educate the public about it, and hope this works out for you. And just encourage your mother, be there for her, be her person so that she can confide in somebody and just reach out to somebody. That is the greatest gift you can give to her. And just trust the process, man. If people are getting help, they usually get better.
Oh, and it sounds like you're reading between the lines very much here.
Yeah.
It sounds like you are trying to kind of hedge and say, I am concerned for my stepdad, but you're not saying it, but it seems to me that you're more concerned for your mother, at this, and that's fine.
Yeah.
That is a fine way for you to be.
Yeah.
You can be concerned for your stepdad, you like your stepdad, et cetera, et cetera. We get it. You're concerned for your mother.
Who
Don't feel bad about that.
No.
And if you're not feeling bad about that, then ignore what I just said.
Yep.
That's also always an option.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to discuss losing yourself in your creative writing. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
Today's episode is brought to you by Robert Brownie Jr. Mintz, Kayla Lansbury, Tracy Banana Scoop, Malia, and Cindy Ash. If you too would like to become a therapy producer, head on over to patreon.com/therapy and sign up. Our second question today, thanks to Anna, about the Olympics is: the United States have won a medal in every Winter Olympic sport but one.
What?
Which of the following sports is it?
Just winter.
Just winter.
Okay.
Is it A, cross-country skiing, biathlon, Nordic combined, or skeleton?
What the hell are any of those? What?
If you'd like to become a therapy producer, head over to
That felt like one run-on sentence.
patreon.com/therapy.
Okay, Jim, let's use our context clues here.
What was the first one?
Cross-country skiing. Let's
All right,
start
that's
with
the-
that one. What do you
that's
think
the-
that is?
Oh, I've seen it. This is the dumb one where these guys just sprint across snow wearing skis, and it's flat snow. They're not even going downhill. They're just waddling across the snow like freaking penguins. I've seen it, and it's a sport. So
I have
one.
done once cross-country skiing on the hinged skis.
Have you
Yep.
really?
I
It
have
was
to.
wonderful.
What?
It was absolutely wonderful.
Oh,
If
that
you
sounds terrible.
learn, you got to know how to do it.
I don't know how to do it. I just loved it. It was so quiet and peaceful, and I wasn't racing
Oh,
anyone or
yeah.
anything like that. We weren't doing it competitively.
sounds
We were
nice.
just it was just so nice.
Okay.
Well, and see, so I've done it a couple times. There's one time we actually had I was in college. One of my electives was like a winter survival skills thing. And we did snowshoeing, a whole bunch of stuff.
Okay.
But one of the days we did cross-country skiing. So we got the skis out and everything, went to the park. And we
You
were
just
skiing
had
through
those
this trail.
hinged skis
Why are you calling them
around-
hinged skis? What does
because
that
the
mean?
boot is
The-
connected
the
to the
heel-
ski via a hinge on the toe.
The
So
heel
it flops? So
yeah,
the whole
heel
ski
doesn't
flops
connect.
around?
The heel
What?
doesn't connect to the
Why would you do that?
So
because
you
it
can
gives
cross-country
you, it gives
ski.
you leverage. That running motion
Oh.
that you're describing, you can't do that in regular skis.
Oh, that's
Um,
interesting.
Yeah.
If you try to do that in regular skis, which if you've ever been downhill skiing,
And they don't call it floppy ski hiking.
they don't.
Oh.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
Okay.
Not since the 80s.
Not since the Great Reform.
Yeah.
Yeah. Since the Olympic
Yeah, if
Committee
you've ever
renamed
tried to just like go across any kind of flat area in regular downhill
it. Seems
skis,
like that wouldn't go
it's horrible.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. So they're basically snowshoes that glide. Is that what you're doing with it?
No, they're
No.
skis that you cross-country ski.
They're skis.
But you're not going anywhere because it's flat.
Well,
You're
yeah,
going
of course
forward.
you're going somewhere.
Well, you're just running on snow. I don't
Yeah.
understand what the purpose
No,
of the
no, no.
ski is.
You see, the difference between running on snow and cross-country skiing
Yeah.
is one of those things is running on snow,
Uh-huh.
and the other one is cross-country skiing.
Have you ever walked on ice?
Yes.
Have you ever ice skated?
Yes.
Okay, then you know all you need to know.
That's the difference?
Yes.
It's not the
So
same
you're
thing.
you're like skating on the snow?
Yeah,
With
in a
the-
way, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, you're moving really fast.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah, you get moving. You get go,
Yeah.
it's you don't go as fast as you do downhill skiing.
Did you
but
think
you
it was just
you get
walking with
moving.
skis?
It looks like they're just waddling over the snow with floppy shoes. That's what it looks like. I think they have
so you've
sticks.
never seen it before.
Well,
They do have
I
poles.
feel like I've watched it on mute maybe. I don't know. I
Right.
don't know how much context. Okay.
Okay, so
Our options are hill skiing.
Cross-country
cross-country
skiing.
That thing.
biathlon.
I
Okay,
don't even know what that is.
That's the s-
there's cross-country skiing
and
involved in a
shooting.
biathlon.
They shoot them?
No, they carry a gun with them and they shoot.
Oh, shit.
The biathlon is the one that I feel confident.
I don't know what else to do with it.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I will say the biathlon is the one that I feel confident that the U.S. has won a medal in.
Yes.
Because if you add shooting to something.
Oh, yeah. We've got
I mean, this had to have, the biathlon, I don't know if this is true or not, but I feel like it has to have been invented in the U.S.
You guys are
It had to
serious?
have been.
They give them guns?
Yeah.
They
Yes.
shoot each
They
other?
cross, no, they, shut the fuck up. You know that's not true.
What is this?
They cross-country ski to a spot, and then there is target shooting. So they get to a spot, and then they take the gun off their back,
Interesting way
and they
to
shoot the targets.
Slam together.
Then they put the gun, strap it back onto their back, and take off cross-country skiing to the next spot.
Yeah.
All right. So we have cross country. We have cross country with guns.
We have shooty cross-country.
Okay.
And then we got jumpy cross country, which
What?
is the Nordic combined. Wow. So that's cross country skiing and a ski jump together.
Jeez.
And then you've got
And
the
the
skeleton.
skeleton.
What's that?
That's the luge, but you go head first.
Oh, we've definitely won that.
I
With
feel
all
like
the
it's
jackass
I feel like
guys.
it's the Nordic combined,
Yeah.
but I feel like that's a red herring thrown in to make me guess that, and I feel like I'm just biting on it.
All
So
right.
that's my guess.
I'll
Okay.
go with the skeleton one just because I don't know what any of these things are. Skeleton sounds nice.
I'll go with A, cross country skiing. So
All right.
all something different.
It
We
wouldn't
all-
it wouldn't surprise me if it's cross country skiing. It will surprise me if it's biathlon, which is I bet it's biathlon.
It's biathlon.
Yep.
Wow. Americans
It
didn't
must-
win the shooting one? That's
How is that
embarrassing.
possible?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still struggling with there's a sport with guns in it at the Olympics.
It's
Oh,
a great sport.
That's-
It's also featured in a James Bond movie.
Oh, yeah, I have seen that.
Yeah, I think one of the Roger Moore James Bond movies.
I've seen this.
Yeah, it's
Huh.
also where Meg made it to the Olympics in Family Guy.
She
I don't
goes in
remember that.
biathlon?
Yeah. But then she leaves the Olympics because she's got to save her dad from the Russians.
That feels right.
Yeah. There's a
usually-
follow-up question, but we already got it. Biathlon is composed of which two events?
Ah,
Jim, what are they?
Guns and floppy shoes.
close enough.
Yeah. Wow, I learned a lot today. I feel like just getting there, getting cultured.
Agreed. He doesn't.
I like Olympics questions.
Yeah,
those are good.
Those are fun.
Thank you,
Losing.
Anna. Thank you. That
Thank
was
you,
great.
Anna.
Feel free to send us more Olympics
Yeah.
questions, even when it's not the Olympics.
Yeah,
Yeah.
why not? Yeah, they're just interesting.
Yeah.
Losing myself in my creative writing from Manu.
Manu.
I feel like
Who's-
we've met her. Oh, God, isn't she that one?
It's ringing a bell.
Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? I mean, there's been so many Manus. You know, there's that.
That's all the time we have.
Oh, she'd love that. Losing myself in my creative writing. If you were to look at me and talk to me, good luck trying that, nothing would seem out of the ordinary. The shell is intact. Honestly, looking good now after the weight loss, new hair, and skincare routine. But whatever is inside got split into different directions, completely detached from the reality I am forced to inhabit. For personal reasons, I needed to escape into things I enjoy, so I went back to writing fan fiction. It's something I haven't done for over a decade, but I stumbled upon a fandom that just inspired me enough to shamelessly indulge in the favorite activity of my teenage years. It got me through high school, so maybe it can carry me through the end times. Plus, it's a good excuse to practice my writing skills in my second language, which is English, by the way. It's been a month now, and writing is all I want to do, to the point of neglecting everything and everyone else. I'm still maintaining a basic level of function, but anything that gets in the way of staying in the fictional narrative bothers me. I wake up, make my bed, turn on the computer, open the archive, grab a coffee, and try to watch something to pretend like I'm not thinking about the same thing over and over. I get so bored sometimes that I catch myself jumping from video to video, hoping that one of them will grab my attention. Usually doesn't work, so I shower and go back to writing. If I get an important email, I'll respond to it. The house is clean, the plants are watered. As I said, the bare minimum of my obligations is taken care of. I'm just not doing a lot of things that I should be. As much as the responsible, grown-up part of my brain knows intellectually that I should care, as I should be putting effort into these other projects, this need to focus on an alternate reality comes from the core. It's too powerful. It's overwhelming. I forget to eat. I rarely want to interact with anyone. I postpone sleep. But it doesn't feel bad. I feel guilty for not feeling guilty. Because, strictly speaking, I'm not doing anything productive. The major conflict I'm having, other than being aware that I should be taking care of other things, and that I believe to be the heart of my question, is this. I am so fixated on these characters that I feel like I'm starting to lose the concept of being a person. My entire collection of motivations and goals was transformed into the single necessity of creation. Nothing else matters as long as I can continue to exist by proxy. I've suspended my wants because my brain is the place where my characters live. The person you see outside is running in the background while the imaginary part takes most of the processing capacity. I wake up thinking about it. I chose my actions around being able to continue thinking about it. If I can't write, it's the last thing I think about before sleep. It's like being in love with someone else as someone else. This was hard to write for the simple fact that I don't even think about myself anymore. This happened before. I know because I usually call it a creative process. The difference now is my inability to establish a balance between work hours and personal obsession. So, what is this? Is it normal? Should I stop it? How would I stop it? Is this the symptom of something else entirely? How do I introduce normal life back into the mix to be a productive member of society again? Or should I double down and find a way to monetize my life force and possible mental illness? Let's pretend I didn't just describe capitalism. It's a lot, so thanks guys in advance and good luck. Triple hugs, the artist formerly known as Manu.
Oh, that money.
Yeah, the artist formerly known as.
Do you guys do this? Do you
Yes.
fixate on
Yes.
things? I do this
Do you?
all the time.
Really? Like you kind of get into that trance state when you're doing something creative?
I will fixate on something, and if I don't immediately do whatever that thing is, I will fixate on it for. I've done it for months at a time.
You've got to do that. What do you mean? Like
It can be anything. It can be a task. It can
Okay.
be like, oh, I want to buy something. I want to buy this thing.
yeah.
It can be really. It can be anything. It can be
Okay.
like I need to do this thing. I'm going to do this thing, and I will fixate on it until I get it done.
Huh.
It'll be like, oh, I kind of want this thing.
And
And
it's like a splinter in your mind.
It
has to be done.
It's beyond that.
Oh wow.
It's well
Yeah.
beyond that.
I'm
Dang.
the same way.
Yeah.
I don't have a middle ground. I
No.
do 100% or I don't do it at all.
And then like with me, sometimes it will fall away, and sometimes after a while, like if it's like a thing that I see that I want to buy, let's say that.
Yeah.
Say I don't know. Say it's a shirt, and so like oh I want to buy that shirt, and for whatever reason I don't buy that shirt,
Mhm.
and then I think about it for a few days, and I don't buy the shirt, and I don't go to the store and buy the shirt, and I might think about it for weeks. I'm like I really want to buy that shirt. I should
Yeah.
just go buy that shirt, and then like sometimes I'll just wake up one day and it'll be gone.
Huh.
And I'll still be aware of like, I do like that shirt. And by the way, I've never done this with a shirt.
Okay.
It's like,
Because
but
I really want to see the shirt you keep
It's a
talking
nice
about.
shirt.
Yeah.
I'm wearing it now.
Oh,
It's very
okay.
nice.
Yeah, so you ended up getting it.
Yeah. But yeah, like it'll still be in my mind like, oh, it's a really nice shirt. I ought to go buy that shirt. But it won't be that compulsion anymore.
Okay. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
a good word for it too. Compulsion.
yeah, I mean, maybe.
But sometimes it doesn't go away and I just like, oh, I bought the shirt now.
Right. Interesting.
I mean, but yeah, I can relate to that. I mean, well, we created a store, and instead of using clip art, I spent 40 hours learning how to use Adobe Illustrator. Like if I see something, I'm like, okay, I want to do this.
right.
So I would rather teach myself how to do something and spend hours and hours learning to do it than to just throw something together.
Yeah.
I was that way when I play guitar too. Like if I wanted to learn something, I'm like, oh, you know what? I've always wanted to learn how to Travis pick. Yeah, which
What?
is that's where you're playing the bass part with your thumb and then you're picking the melody with your finger.
Yeah.
Fingers, you know, so it's like very common in banjo. A lot of
Yeah.
players do that, and so like, oh, okay, so I don't just like learn just like a really easy thing. I like, okay, well, I'm gonna go to Merle Travis, the guy who they named it after, and I'm
Uh-huh.
gonna learn the way that he did it,
Oh,
and then I'm
God.
gonna learn this, and I'm gonna learn this, and I'm gonna learn this, and I do it until literally my fingers hurt, and then I have to stop.
I'm
And
slowly
then,
shaking my head.
but then once I stop doing it, then if I get away from it, then I can take a break.
Okay.
But like I don't have a middle ground.
You get like in a cycle.
I'm on or I'm off.
And it doesn't turn off.
It
Once you're
doesn't
in it,
turn off.
You're there. That's all you're thinking
Yeah,
about.
that's all I do. I cannot get off of that topic, and it drives Laura fucking
So,
crazy.
Mono, you have company on this.
That's
Yes.
nice. I'm not among you, not even a little bit.
Yeah.
As soon as I touch the very first strand of adversity, I'm out. I'm good. I have no more interest in this whatsoever. So, like, my son yells at me because I've literally downloaded video games for us to play. And then as the loading screens are going where they're like produced by and like there's like text, if I can't skip over that, I'll shut off the system and walk away because I'm already so bored. And he's like, Dad, this is bad. Like, you need to. And I'm like,
I mean, nobody's
I like
surprised
games
by
that are
that part.
fast.
Yeah.
I want to make the race car rocket ship game go. And my son's like, you seriously can't even get through the opening.
Go to
credits.
the bathroom. The credits will be done by the time
Yeah,
you get back.
I can't do it.
Yeah, you'll be a great
I
scoutmaster.
do not exist
Nah.
inside of this space of like obsessing thinking. I can't do it. So, but no, you know what's interesting, Manu, is as I hear. First off, I just want to take a second. Very well written letter. I mean, certainly nobody submits letters for our, approval to, say, well, you're a good writer, but damn, like you're a very good writer. Like even just reading that just flows incredibly well. Like I can tell you're very gifted. But you know what's interesting? I remember listening to John Green, who I really like, and I'll tell you, I don't know if you guys ever have this thought. I have like fantasy guests for Pod Therapy. John Green.
The character from the Clue board game?
That guy, God, he wasn't the murderer.
I would have gone with Mustard, Colonel Mustard.
Colonel
Yeah,
Mustard
he's great.
with the candle.
We would never get him.
No,
Yeah.
we can't get him.
Yeah, he's too big. He's military.
He's a colonel. He's a full-blown
Have you
colonel.
seen what's going on in Russia? He's busy. Okay. John Green is the author. Oh my gosh, there's so many books. The Fault in Our Stars, Searching for Alaska, Paper Towns. He's incredible. He's an author. He's a big YouTuber.
Hank Green is the only Green I care about.
That's right. And Hank's his little brother. And the two of them created Vlog Brothers, great YouTube channel. They're also TikTok famous again. I love John too because he has obsessive and compulsive disorder for which he is medicated. And he's very open about it online. He tells his story a lot. But he's talked a lot about writing before. And Manu, you might benefit from going into some of his archives and listen to him talk about writing because he talks about it the same way you do. He talks about it like he's not creating these characters. He's witnessing these characters and he's witnessing their story and he's describing their reality to the rest of us, but he doesn't own them. They're not his. He's not even making them up. He feels like he's observing them. And it's constant and it's ever present. And he talks about and he quotes this all the time, talks about other writers and how they often feel the sense of like they have to write, like they can't stop. If you go into some of the reflections of Lin-Manuel Miranda, who created Hamilton, among other things, he talks about how when he created Hamilton, in many ways it was a love story to writers. And like he talks so much about how Hamilton, he saw himself in Hamilton, how Hamilton would write and write and write and couldn't stop writing. And obviously Hamilton writes stories. He wrote, legal arguments. But Lin felt very similar because he felt like these songs just came out of him and stories and songs came out of him. He had to always write them. So I think so much of this in your letter really sounds like other great authors. And obviously you're still watering the plants and taking care of yourself and doing the bare minimum. I mean, it's interesting how you almost seem to be describing some amount of dissociation. And I mean that in a non-clinical way, where we're kind of like detaching from our reality and sort of like feeling like we're in a separate space, like a little outside of reality. I think that's something a lot of people talk about. If you go through some of those books that talk about there was that Michael Jordan book. It wasn't about Michael, but it wasn't written by Michael. It was about him. But it was about the zone, like when people get into the zone and they're just in the zone and they're just like sinking, like every shot's going in and you can see it in their eyes and like they've hit that
Are
special
you talking
space.
about the flow?
That might have been it. I think in that book, they talk about that same concept with elite athletes and writers and musicians. They hit this trance state where they inhabit their art or whatever it is they do. And they are dissociating from their reality and just inhabiting that. So I share all that with you, Manu, because so much of your letter doesn't sound ill to me. It doesn't sound broken to me. It sounds very beautiful. And, as long as it's not causing any trouble, I think that you sound like many authors that I've heard about or other people that can hit that flow state or that trance state. And especially creative writers, I think, often relate to what you're talking about.
And I hear you saying should a lot, and you're shoulding all over yourself,
Hey-o.
as the old saying goes.
Indeed.
And I should be doing this. I should be doing this. I guess I would kind of challenge you a little bit and it's like, why? Like, why do you feel that way that you should be doing these things? And
Sure.
is that just a feeling, or like, is that the way it really is? I mean, because I don't know, as if, like Jim said, I mean, you're taking care of the basics. You're doing all the things you're supposed to be doing. You're not being neglectful of like paying your bills or,
Well, Manu
anything
did
like
say
that.
that there's a distance between her and other people, that
Yeah.
she's avoiding others and
Mhm.
doing
Yeah,
more of this.
But I mean, is that a problem?
Sure, sometimes.
Yeah, I
not.
mean,
That's my question.
That's the thing. Like,
It-
is it?
Is this a problem?
Yeah,
If it's a problem, then address it.
right.
If it's not causing a real noticeable problem, maybe ride with it for a minute.
Yeah, that's kind
See
of what
where
I'm
it
thinking.
goes.
That's what I'm thinking too, because I hear you saying like, well, other people spend this amount of
No,
time
fuck
with
that.
other
I don't care
people,
about
and-
that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, and then I think that's kind of where the shoulds come from. Like, well, I should be doing this because why? Because
If there are things in your life that you need to be getting done that you're not getting done,
yeah,
then that's a problem.
yes,
If you're missing appointments, if you're not out there doing the work that you need to do to make the money that you need to pay for your apartment or your house or your living situation and everything, then that's a problem. And yeah,
yeah. I
gotta
mean,
deal with that.
is it maladaptive? If not, then I would say go with it.
Yeah. And I mean, if that means that you become a little antisocial for a few months while you write this and just kind of ride this wave, maybe that's what it is.
Well, and what the other thing that you could do is, if you decide to just kind of, as Jacob says, just kind of ride the wave, maybe sit down and think, come up with a list yourself of, I'll know it's a problem when blank, and then that way you can just kind of keep your eye on it,
Yeah.
so you don't feel like you're going blindly into kind of letting yourself go.
Actually, you know what? How about this? If you're concerned about it, and I would say only if you're really concerned about it, then put a cap on it.
Mhm.
Put a time cap on your day that you're gonna commit to doing this. You're gonna commit to actually sitting down and writing, and say that cap is, I'd say make it big to start with. I'd say make it 8 hours. Just treat it like a second full-time job. People can do a full-time job and then a second full-time job in a single day. That happens.
Mhm.
So I'd say make it big. Say, this is my second full-time job. I'm going to write for 8 hours a day, or I'm going to write for at most 8 hours a day. I don't mean to say this to put more pressure on you.
Right.
So if you think that it's becoming a problem, just say, I'm going to put a limiter on myself, and I'm going to write for 8 hours a day. And I would suggest, as part of that creative process, that if you feel like you're running into a wall at the end of that time, you say, I'm 7.5 hours in today, and I feel like I've got another 4 hours of writing left in me today, then take that last half hour and stop writing, and start noting. Start taking notes on, here are the things that I want to tackle tomorrow. And you may find that as part of your creative process, and so I'm obviously coming at this from a different angle than Jim or Nick are going to come at this from, because I do arts, I do entertainment,
diagonally.
and I'm standing diagonally, and so it can help you to stop that same type of creative process. In this case, writing your story out, and just stopping that and transferring over to, now I'm going to write notes for myself. I'm going to you can do storyboarding. You can do just ideas, like here's my list of ideas. You can just write a character name and start writing some character development under that name that you can come back to the next day. And so that way, when you hit your 8-hour cap that first day, you go, great, I've got a great spot to start when I sit down and tackle this tomorrow.
I like
And
that.
start building yourself a little structure to work within. And honestly, that can also help you artistically as well.
Structuring to kind of give yourself permission to dissociate during that time.
Mm-hmm.
Last thought I'll offer, I actually had a patient very early in my career. This is when I was a student intern, and she was a teenage girl, and she did this. She wrote fan fiction, and she did it obsessively. Her parents were concerned, and she was basically escaping reality. And she would tell me in these therapy sessions, I strongly encouraged it. I didn't see it as a problem. And her parents and I, were at odds with that. Parents wanted me to take a position of it's negative. I took a position of I want to see the patient's perspective. So I'd encourage her to tell me her stories. And it was amazing to me how alive her stories were. She would sit there and verbally tell me about these characters as if they were people in her life, and telling me about the way that they behaved and the interactions they had and the stories that they had, not as if she was making them up, but as if she was just telling me about them, as if she was a friend in their lives. And, that freaked out her parents. But for me, I saw it as just an incredible amount of creativity. I ended up doing an assessment with her that is called a dissociated, I think it's evaluation survey. It's a DES-2. We once posted that in our Patreon somewhere in the archives, but you can go find that, Manu. And sometimes it's an interesting survey to take because you might relate to some portion of it and realize that maybe there is some dissociating happening. And again, dissociation is not a mental illness all in and of itself. Not a bad thing. It's just a characteristic that some people do. It's that trance state. And, with this particular patient, we focused mostly on just kind of what the guys were saying, like how to kind of harness this so that it's productive, but not escaping reality to the point where we don't feel comfortable in reality. And so a lot of her challenges that I would give to her really had to do with just getting her back into the real world in some small measure, taking a walk, going for a swim, going shopping. And I know for you, Manu, because we follow you on Twitter, you've talked so much about what Brazil's been through with COVID and what these years have been like. And I know you've really had to just really get out of the real world. And so it's no wonder that you found a way to creatively escape. But I guess my challenge would be getting back incrementally into the real world, doing those little tasks, getting out of the house, getting back out among humans if it's safe to do so. I think that all by itself is going to start giving you more voices, more encounters with other characters that are in real world, and maybe start to peel back some of this kind of dissociated creativity if it bothers you. Of course, I agree with the guys. If it doesn't, it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. Just
write your ass off, girl. Do it. And you are welcome to write Pod Therapy fan fiction. We've long been waiting. We have a Pod Therapy comic. That's nice. Now we need Pod Therapy novellas. Oh, I insist that they be
what
novellas.
Would it be?
Mind reading. Duh. Professor X.
Not at all.
That's
this
obvious.
This is not the direction we need to be going with that question.
Okay.
Nick, if Jim had a superpower, what would it be?
Oh, okay. Yeah, you go the other direction with it. Yeah. I don't get asked.
I think, what kind of superpower would I give Jim?
I don't know. It has to be a legit superpower. You can't just be
Mind
like,
reading.
oh, he could turn into a snail.
Professor X is obviously.
Oh, it's got to be legit.
It has to be a real superpower. It has to be something that somebody else would refer to as a superpower.
Yeah, mind reading. I'd be very responsible with it. You could trust me.
I
would.
No,
I'd
nobody-
get all the trivia right.
Nobody
That'd be
wants
kinda
that.
nice.
No. Let me think about that. We'll tackle that.
Jim
in the
would
next
just discover
Patreon.
that Nick and I are just always guessing the trivia answers, and we just happen to be right.
Yeah. I'd just be horrified all the time.
Jim, what would Nick's be?
If Nick had a superpower, this is a good question. All right. So this is one he would want?
No, it's just what you're assigning him a superpower.
Oh, well, I'd be friendly. I would give him something that he would probably like.
That's the only rule is it has to be somebody else would have to hear it and say, "Oh, that's a superpower."
You know what? Nick would be Batman. I'll give him that.
That's not a superpower.
Exactly.
Somebody else just heard
What
you
a
say it,
dick.
and they said that's not a superpower. They have to hear you say it, in this case, me, and they have to agree that it's a superpower.
Isn't he a superhero?
No.
Okay, so just a hero. I guess I'd give Nick Cyclops. I'll give you Cyclops' power.
He could shoot lasers out of his eyes?
Lasers out of your eyes.
Okay.
Cyclops is
Sounds
kind of
fair.
a Boy Scout in the X-Men.
Sounds
so I
fair.
feel like
Okay.
that's the right character.
Oh, you're
for Nick.
assigning like a character.
I'm going with it. Yeah, I'm looking for full participation
I
of
would-
storyboarding.
I would give Jim.
You want to be Captain America. I think
No.
you'd like that the best. Just to be super
Actually,
yoked.
if I could pick, if I could
That's
pick a superpower, it'd be Quicksilver.
Oh yeah, that's
would be
very solid.
Just really
Yeah.
fast. He's
Yeah.
really fast. He's the
Yeah.
Flash in the
Damn
other,
near
in
time
the other
defying
universe, right?
fast.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that guy's
If I
pretty
could give Jim a superpower, I think it'd be like the Wolverine.
I'll take
Only instead of the claws, it'd be your toenails.
cool.
You could
Okay,
grow out your
yeah.
toenails.
Just, like, stick those in people's
Yeah,
eyes. I
and
like
you
that.
You just have to.
Yeah,
kick.
just gotta jump up and kick them really
That's
fast.
his
Yeah.
in what is
like
it? Is
that.
it
Yeah.
Logan? Is that
Yeah.
the movie where he
Logan.
finds his daughter?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
And she has that.
I never saw that. She
Not the
does.
toes.
She has like the spikes that come out of her feet.
Oh wow,
No, they're at her hands.
Watch that movie again.
Really?
Yeah.
that's a big thing to get wrong.
They come out of
there.
her feet too.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, they come out of her hands, but they also come out of her feet.
Wow.
Oh wow.
Because they even talk. The only reason I remember it is they talk about it in the movie, how the female of the species usually has more
Oh.
defensive capabilities than the male does
Oh, there
in
you
most
go.
animal species.
The more you know.
Oh, interesting.
It is interesting.
There we go. What
So,
would-
I
what
mean,
would
interesting
Jacob-
is strong.
Jacob would have to be like a sonar thing. As an
Yeah.
audio guy, it'd be like he'd have.
Oh.
he'd
have
be
the ability
Dolores
to-
from Encanto. Have you guys seen Encanto? It's a Disney movie. It's about a
No.
Oh, I
Colombian
haven't seen that
family
yet.
with
It
a
looks
magic
great,
house.
though.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
There's a
I
girl
wanna see it.
named
It's on my
Dolores,
list.
and she has super hearing. So that would be nice. I
Yeah.
think he'd like that.
Yeah.
It works out for her okay. She can hear everybody.
All right.
There you go.
Patreon.com/therapy. For all of you who'd
Then
like
you
to
could
support
hear
the show.
all the people coming to murder you.
Yeah.
You couldn't stop them.
no.
But you'd be hear them
He
coming.
got out of there quick enough. We have a new Therapal. Welcome to Mo.
Welcome,
Hi,
Mo.
Mo's actually super cool. Mo messaged us on Instagram and just said really nice things and said, something to the effect of like, hey, this show has made a big difference and thank you. And it was really
nice.
great. And had actually written in a letter, but then said, hey, don't read the letter because things are great. Like ended up solving the problem.
Cool.
So it was great. Awesome stuff to hear.
Oh, that's the best kind of letter.
That's the best kind of letters, the one we don't have to
Oh,
read.
because we'd have definitely fucked it
We
up.
would have definitely, pointed
Yeah.
in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
But then Mo said, and I'm definitely going to Patreon the show as soon as I pay off these student loans. And I wrote back to Mo and I said, we both know that neither of us will ever pay off our student loans. Patron the show. So Mo became a Patreon for
There
a
you
buck.
go. I like how you just bully people into
I
becoming a
always
Patreon.
do that. Yeah, there's a new guy on Twitter, Jim Mills. And it was Manu who basically obelisked him. Obelisk?
If you can't say the word, then you don't get to use it in a sentence.
She got him to start listening to our show. Welcome, Jim Mills. I hope you're listening long enough to hear your name, which I would get to read more if you freaking Patreon the show. I immediately started shaking him down on
Jim,
Twitter.
don't do it.
I was doing it. All right, and we want to thank our bosses, the Saccharin 16, the mysterious and shrouded Illuminati members of the fan club, the Thera producers. Thank you, Smitty Scoop, Jake Schneider, Robert Brownie Jr., Mint, Kayla Lansbury, Judy Schneider, Nathan's Hot Dog Scoop, King of Student Loan Debt, Dr. Ben Don, Crazy Banana Scoop, Mason Miller, Carolyn Albert, Leon Kassab, Kevin Chamberlain, Malia, Richard Macy, Cindy Ash, Newstick, and Lord Colin Stewart, Dirty B, Ben Stanley, Sammy Scoop, and Sarah Smith.
If you'd like to hear this episode uncut and unedited
And why wouldn't you?
and enjoy our spontaneous side projects, go to patreon.com/therapy. And thank you for supporting mental health.
That's all the time that we have for this week's session. We want to thank our landlords, Matt Mattingly's Ice Cream Social Podcast, and thanks to all of you who contributed to our show today. We really appreciate it. Remember, pod therapy isn't something you could keep all to yourself, or you should, whatever. Go to patreon.com/therapy and
Don't tell
give
me
us
what I
money,
can
or you can go to patreon.com/therapy and give us money, or you can go to patreon.com/therapy and give us money.
Or you could show up in a recording and give us money.
We also accept checks.
Do you want to submit a question to the show? Ask anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. I'm Nick Tangeman.
I'm Jim Jobin.
Thanks, and we'll see you for your appointment next week.
Jelly and jam.
That is so gross. Oh, we have definitely got to cut that shit. I'm terrified that I will forget.